Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining CNBC.
My
I want to
pleasure.
kick off by asking you about your trip here to the World Economic Forum. You had the chance to sit down with President Trump. Walk me through how likely you think it is that the U.S. president can be of use in terms of Kashmir.
Look, I can't say what will be the outcome, but for me it is important to try my best, because Kashmir is, it's a far more serious problem than people realize, the world realizes. The problem is that India has been taken over by an extremist ideology, which is called Hindutva or the RSS. RSS, if you Google RSS, founding fathers, they were inspired by the Nazis. They admired the Nazis. Then they admired their racial purity. They believed in the ethnic cleansing of Muslims. Some of one of the founding fathers, Gowalkar, he's written about it. So therefore, that ideology that had assassinated Mahatma Gandhi and was declared a terrorist organization 3 times has taken over India. And Kashmir is just what they have done in Kashmir is, since 5th August, they basically put 8 million people under curfew, under siege. They whisked away all their political leaders. They picked up teenagers, thousands of teenagers taken out of Kashmir. So it's a serious situation. And why do I say it's serious? Because I worry that this will now spill over. Already the army chief has given a statement that the Pakistan side of Kashmir also belongs to India. So this is serious because they're 2 nuclear-armed countries. That's why I want President Trump, head of the most powerful country in the world, he should intervene right now. United Nations or President Trump through the UN. At least this is what the world bodies came about after 1945, to stop this sort of a future conflict.
Do you believe that Prime Minister Modi is enabling this?
Prime Minister Modi was a life member of RSS. I repeat, RSS is an extremist ideology. Why do I say that it's important that people in the West, they do not understand this as yet? But if you all you have to do is Google this ideology, you will know what it is. So the danger is that it's a country of 1.3 billion people, nuclear armed, taken over by this. So it's a nightmare scenario for people like us who are the neighbors. And because of the Kashmir dispute, this could actually spill over.
What kind of pressure do you want the international community to put on India? Are we talking about sanctions?
What would the international community do in similar circumstances? They are all in the United Nations, the Security Council. There are various ways they can be a deterrent, stop this sort of nonsense. And what's happening in India? They passed these 2 legislation, and these 2 legislations have alarmed the 200 million Muslims living in India. There are already protests going on. In fact, non-Muslims have also joined them. Minorities have joined them. Indian intellectuals have joined them because they realize where this is headed. I mean, the Nazi Germany between 1930 and 1934 turned from a liberal democracy to a fascist, totalitarian, racist state. This is what's happening in India.
When you think about this more broadly, we're talking about an international appeal here as well. I mean, think about the situation in China with the Uyghurs. The international community has really not done enough by a long haul. Does that concern you that a similar situation could take place in India?
In India, they've got this Registration Act. In Assam, they suddenly deregistered almost 2 million people. Now, 2 million people, out of them, they were Hindus. So they brought this other act along.
Do you think we're talking about a genocide, potentially?
In Kashmir, I'm scared, because in Kashmir, they have already, the stated aim of this RSS is that they will change the demography of people of Kashmir. Kashmir is a disputed territory between Pakistan and India. There are 10 or 11 United Nations resolutions which confirm that it's a dispute, and the people of Kashmir, through a referendum, could decide whichever country they wanted to join. Now, that disputed territory has been annexed by India. And they are trying to change the demography of people of Kashmir, which according to the 4th Geneva Convention is a war crime.
When you think about what happens next, more broadly in this region, beyond Kashmir, there's a lot of concern that we've heard over the last couple of weeks, a lot of it inside the Beltway in Washington and even in the region, that the Trump administration's maximum pressure campaign is destabilizing the Middle East or making it more worrisome, I would say, between neighbors. Do you think that the U.S. and President Trump is getting it right when it comes to dealing with Iran? Because I know that you've tried to be a mediator in that situation.
You see, it would be a disaster if this conflict takes place between the U.S.
But he doesn't seem to want it, President Trump. You know, he keeps backing away. He says that he wants dialogue. Do you think he does?
And that's sensible. I mean, just look at Afghanistan. It's almost now 19 years. We're still finding a solution. Still trying to get peace talks going, ceasefire going. Still people are dying in Afghanistan. This is 19 years, over $1 trillion spent on it. Does the U.S. want another conflict? And trust me, Iran will be much, much more difficult conflict than even Afghanistan.
You've spent time in Tehran talking about these issues. Do you believe that there is a possibility that they would sit down with Donald Trump and have a conversation?
You know, people should never rely on military solutions. I mean, you use military to solve one problem, 5 other problems come up, unintended consequences. Whenever you look back, look at Vietnam War. The generals were saying it's only a few months, 2 months, 6 months, 6 weeks, and look what happened. Same with Afghanistan. I heard it myself. Our own President Musharraf, when he was joining the U.S. war on terror, he said it'll be only a few weeks. Max 2-3 months. Look, so war is never a solution. People who try and solve issues through bloodshed and war, you know, they always cause mayhem in this world. A conflict right now with Iran would be a disaster for developing countries. Oil prices will shoot up. Countries like us who are just about balancing our budgets, everything will go and it'll just cause poverty. So I would, you know, and I did say it to President Trump that, you know, war is not the solution.
Do you think that Tehran would be open to talking to President Trump?
When I spoke to President Trump when I was in the U.S. In September, then I went to Tehran, spoke to the president and their supreme leader. I thought they were receptive. I thought they wanted to, they were willing to talk.
When you think about your role as the Prime Minister, there seems to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, a bit of an edge for celebrity politicians like yourself and even Donald Trump when it comes to communicating, when it comes to opening those doors and having those kinds of conversations. Do you see yourself as a mediator, Prime Minister?
You see, I again repeat, I do not believe in military solutions. This is I'm a student of history, and I just have, look back in history, every time, these military solutions took place, look at Napoleon going into Russia, then Hitler going into Russia. Just look at all these conflicts. For a start, they are always a miscalculation. They're always a miscalculation. And then they cause bloodshed on this earth. So I look upon myself as someone who would always want to be a partner in peace. Twice we joined the U.S. sort of camp. One was when the Soviets invaded Afghanistan in the 80s. Then we again joined the U.S. after 9/11. Pakistan suffered. I know the consequences. Second time, 70,000 Pakistanis were killed in an insane